Hi everyone, welcome to Product School webinar. Today we'll be discussing about how to work with cross-functional teams. Before diving into the topic, let me introduce myself. I am Chakkaradeep Chandran, working as a senior program manager at Microsoft. I currently work in Office graphics team exclusively with the Microsoft PowerPoint product. Prior to working in the Office graphics team, I worked at various teams at Microsoft, most recently launching the Microsoft List product last year. Now, one of the things that I learned, and I'm still learning at Microsoft, working at these different teams, is how to effectively work with all these cross-functional product teams. And that's exactly what I'm going to share today in this webinar, is how to work with cross-functional teams, but not about how to manage cross-functional teams. And whenever you hear these topics, you can see that the session tends to go towards each of these different topics, right? So today we're going to only focus on how to work with cross-functional teams. So as a product manager, if you're new to the industry, or if you're an experienced product manager, you would have heard this statement a lot. As a product manager, you are the CEO of your product. Well, sometimes that makes us product managers think that we have everything in our control. We can tell the engineering teams, we can tell everybody what to do and how to do. But that isn't the case all the time, because as a product manager, you still don't have authority. You're still as the same engineer that is trying to write code and get that code checked in, that goes through a code review and whatnot. Similarly, for a product manager, in order for a product manager to, let's say, understand and provide suggestions or write a spec and provide the various ways the UX has to interact with the user, you got to go work with several different people in your company. And that's why you don't have authority. And in fact, you will never have an authority, right? But that said, you're still accountable for your work. And that's very important, right? But wait, that is not so simple, because you are going to work with several different people in your team or cross teams, or even different departments in your company, to gain consensus and agreement on what you are proposing for your product, right? And that's where it comes, that's where this working with cross-functional team comes to play. And when you think about these cross-functional teams, you could think about the sales team, the engineering team, the customer support team, or the marketing team. And I would also put the design and research team, that you would have to work not only design your product, but also conduct user research, right? And the other team that I usually see in big companies is working with cross-product teams. Big companies like Microsoft or Google or Amazon have lots of products, and every product within those companies also use the other products to benefit the user that is in that particular ecosystem, right? And that's also a very different view when you think about the cross-functional team that you would have to deal with. So at Microsoft, working with cross-functional product teams is something that you do every day. Like here, I've just put some of the teams that I work with, even though I'm part of the PowerPoint team, or previously, even though I was part of the List team, I had to work with several different teams. And that means you're going to work with so many people. How do you bring these people together? How do you build a product that goes across these different teams, these different product boundaries, and yet still result in a successful product? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be looking at today. I'm going to give you some quick tips that you can take and apply in your work today and get started with how to effectively work with cross-functional teams. So why is it hard? Well, the first thing is the goals are different, right? What your goal for your product is not the same goal for the other product or for the other team. Even if you take the sales team's goal could be very different depending on the season and the season of the market, or how good the product has been used in the market. So there's so many things that affects the sales team. And similarly with engineering team, there could be a lot of things in the backlog that suddenly the goals could be very different. And if the goals are different, what could be different? The priorities could be different, right? What you might think that is top of your stack rank could not be the top with the engineering team. So you would have to work with the engineering team to understand why that is the case and how you could basically work with the engineering team to bring your feature or your bug fix even, right, to top of their stack rank. And sometimes, like you saw, the different products, as soon as you go into the different products, there is misalignment with the teams that you work with, or even with the leadership, right? So there has to be some good alignment as well when you think about you're crossing the product boundary, because then all of the above that you saw, the goals, the priorities, becomes very important. How do you navigate that? How do you make sure everyone are on the same page? And that's exactly what this is about, like working with cross-functional teams. But we all know managing relationships is hard. And for product managers, this is kind of like embedded in your product DNA, right? In your job DNA, I would say that as a product manager, you'd have to work with your customers, or you have to work with your engineering team. You have to work with your marketing team. So it's something that we have to do as a product manager every day. Now, what are the common challenges we face as product managers that is stopping us from being very effective working with these such cross-functional teams? Well, the first one is gaining trust, right? Trust is very important. Once you start trusting each other, whether that is between different teams or between different PMs, you will see the magic flowing through your work every day. Everybody will be very eager to help and get both of you or the teams to success. And that's why the trust is very important. And organizational alignment. No matter what, if you as an individual product manager is going in a direction and your organization is going in another direction, that's never a good thing. That is always going to lead you in the wrong path. So there has to be the organization alignment, and which is again a challenge, right? How do you go about in making sure your organization comes into this alignment? And finally, effective communication. As product managers, we have to communicate. We have to communicate with our engineering team how to build these features, what's important to our users, why does it matter for our users. And similarly, when you're going and talking with your marketing team, you have to sell your product, right? As a product manager, why would a customer buy your product? And you have to educate them and you have to tell them about that magic that your users are going to be getting buying this product. And similarly, if you're working with cross product, you have to go make sure that the other team understands why you want to partner with that product team and what's in it for that product team and for your team, and how that collaboration is going to work together and satisfy the market, satisfy the users, and satisfy the organization alignment, right? So these are some common challenges I would say that you would usually encounter when working with cross-functional teams. Now, of course, do I have a solution? There are various things that you could think about, but these are the three things that from my experience, I can tell you what product managers can do to overcome those challenges and work effectively with cross-functional teams. First one is understand each other's domain. Like that helps to get to know each other and gain trust, right? And be outcome driven. That's very important. Why are you collaborating with those teams? Why is that important? What is the outcome? Then that goes to goals and priorities, and kind of like you would drive the conversation to be more about as outcome than just like, hey, I just need this to be done by this quarter, right? Which is very different conversation. And finally, build relationships, right? You're going to be in that company, you're going to be working for that company, you're going to be, working with the same team, or maybe you're going to be shifting to another team, but still you got to keep that relationship, stay connected and work with people so that you can gain the trust. You can always be a good ally to each other, right? And that is very important. And that's why building relationships is also very important for product managers. So these are the three things that a product manager can do to overcome those challenges we saw before. Now, let's dive into each of these, and let me give you some simple tips that you can take and apply in your work. Now, when we think about understanding each other domain, what does it mean? Well, when you are going and asking something, or when you want to collaborate with another team, first do your homework, right? What is that team? Why is that team here in this or in your company? What does the team do? What is important to them? Do they have a team mission? Do they have a team goal? Like, go figure it out. Sometimes the information is available either through your internal wiki or internal organizational hierarchy, or even if you just ask your peers, sometimes they would have more information for you and help you as well to get an understanding about the other team or the other PMs that you're going to go meet, right? And then set up a meet and greet, whether it's virtual or in person. Set up some time to get to know each other, introduce yourself, and talk about the work that you both do, right? Which is very important. And that kind of like helps each other to understand where you are currently with the product or in the company, and even like what you do every day, right? And that conversation will lead to understanding each other's product or each other's team, the work, the culture, which could be very different from team to team, right? Even in Microsoft, the work culture is very different. The way how PMs work in my team versus, let's say, how PMs work in a different team. So understanding how they work and the culture helps me to basically put a plan on how I'm going to approach the other team when I have an ask that is really important for my product. And finally, this is something that I use all the time. Listen first, clarify later, right? You got to give the time to sit and listen to others on what they're talking about, especially when you have something that you need to get done from that PM or from that team, right? And that's why it is very important when they talk about their product, because every PM, I can tell you, will be very excited to talk about their product, very excited about all the things that they do in their product, right? And getting to know that, you will get to know the PM, you'll get to know the product. So listen first, clarify later, right? And use a shared vocabulary. Sometimes that could be some acronyms or abbreviations that are very specific to teams, especially in sales team and marketing team. There could be many different things that you might have to understand. And that's, again, do your homework, and that'll get you to have that understanding. And when you go and talk with those different PMs, you'll also get to understand what is that shared vocabulary. What do they think is really important to them? Let's get down to that and create something that we can build trust, right? And that's why this is very important, understanding each other's domain. And next is about being outcome driven, right? And what you mean, and what I mean when I talk about outcome driven is turn conversations into outcome driven. Don't just have a conversation about, hey, this is really important for my feature, for my product, and I need your team to build this by next quarter, right? that doesn't always go well. I mean, if you have an authority, sure, but that's not how the world works, right? So you got to understand how to turn that conversation to outcome driven. Why is it very important? What would the customer gain from it? And as a partner in this project, what is it for the other team or for the other PM to gain, right? Understand that and turn that conversation into an outcome driven conversation. And that means you also need to understand what each other's goals are, right? Sometimes you would go and talk to the sales team and realize that their goal for this quarter or for the next 3 quarters could be that they want to drive up the revenue by X%, right? You could then change the conversation. You could say, hey, my product team is building this particular feature, which we think is going to drive the user engagement to up by, let's say, 10%. And that is actually going to help your sales team drive up the revenue by X%, because this is a premium feature that we're going to be introducing into the market, right? You could drive those conversations. And again, here's all the outcomes that you're putting into this conversation, right? And same thing, engineering team's goal could be to move quicker with release to production cycles every sprint. How do you go help there? How do you turn that conversation? Maybe you should be really working on how you can help the engineering team deliver success every sprint, celebrate every sprint, right? With small feature set and small capabilities that at the end of, let's say, a quarter, everybody is happy. The engineering team is happy. And as a product manager, you're also happy. And as an organization, the leadership is also happy about the progress, right? And finally, find that common ground. All we have seen and all the things that we just discussed is about finding that common ground. What is important to me? What is important to you? How do we find that common ground, and how do we work with each other to deliver those features, right? And the next thing, the last thing, right, it's about building relationships, right? And building relationships, again, it goes back to the basics. How do you get to know each other and build trust? You might have understood how to work with that PM. You might have understood what is very important for that PM. And now, how do you take that to the next level, right? You need to build that relationship. So make sure you build on trust, right? Share challenges and outcomes together. Again, you're all working for the same company. Your ultimate goal is to do the good thing for the company, for the user, right? So everybody is working hard. So share those challenges and outcomes together and help each other succeed, which is very important, right? Once you help each other succeed, then it becomes something that you can learn and fail together. And finally, you can stay connected. Everything comes together, right? And that's very important to building a relationship that can last longer for many product cycles or for many product generations inside a company. Of course, people come and people leave, but once you get into understanding how to work effectively with others, you're literally building a good relationship that can last forever, right? And that's exactly what we saw here. Get to know each other and build trust, share challenges and outcomes together, help each other succeed, learn and fail together, and finally stay connected, right? So that kind of like helps you as a product manager to go work effectively with your cross-functional teams. So what product managers can do: understand each other's domain, be outcome-driven, and build relationships. With these 3 things, I think as a product manager, you can work effectively with cross-functional teams. So that was today's topic in this webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to connect with me, I am in Twitter and LinkedIn. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon in another webinar. Bye.